Hello and welcome back to FiddleUP. I'm Emerald Ray, and as you can hear, we have a nice drone happening in the background. Somebody's ringing back there. I don't know who it is, but it's kind of perfect because it adds to that droney, pipey flavor of this tune. This is one of my favorite tunes ever, 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 ever. I love this tune. Fingal's Cave is actually a cave that is in Scotland somewhere. It's on some island that I can't remember the name of. And it is very cool because it's this cathedral cave, so it's actually a musical cave, and it used to be somewhere that people would go visit in the 19th century, and I'm sure they still do. I don't know anybody who has actually gone there, but I would love to go there sometime and check it out. But it's one of those things where I don't think it's in an inhabited area. I think you have to kind of take a special boat to get there. So I'm not sure if it would be the ideal situation to like pack your fiddle and take it, but if somebody knows more about this, please let me know because I'd love to go do it. I'd love to go play this tune in Fingal's Cave. That would be really fun. So if that has been done, let me know if you know more about that. Otherwise, it's kind of a cool thing to go Google. So yeah, so it's a cathedral cave, and so this tune is really beautiful. It just kind of hits all of the beautiful notes, and this is one of those tunes that is technically a beginner tune, and you can make it as advanced and fancy as you want. So it really is a forever tune. So we're going to start off, we're in A minor here, and we're going to start off with a little snappy pickup. And so we're going to start on your first finger on your D string and your third finger on your D string. So we have a nice E, G. And then I want to get you into these, I want you to give that a try, even if it seems scary. If you're still working on which string you're on, you might want to just keep it simple at first. But if you're feeling like you want to try something fun, you can play your E, G, and then pull from the G to the A. Now I'm sure that sound is something that's happened by accident many times. So I'm sure that won't be an unfamiliar thing to do at this point. But now you can use it artistically. Isn't that fun? So it's a good chance to use some of these gritty textures that were once a mistake and are now on purpose. So here's the pickup. We have E, G, A. Or so we have our pickup from the D string, first finger, third finger, open A. And then first finger on the A or a B, open A, and then back down to the D string for a G. That's a third finger there. So that phrase is. So it's 1, 3, open A, 1, A, 3 on the D, A, 1, A, A. One more time. So at the end of that little phrase, we're going to hop up to the E string and then down to the third finger on the A string. And so the notes are, we have a lot of long notes and a lot of really short notes, and this is really common in Scottish music. So this is really going to get you warmed up for doing kind of more complicated Strathspey patterns here. So far we have. And then we're going to come down to your first finger on the A string, and there's your B. So now don't panic. This isn't as hard as it looks. So we have B, A, G. So that's 1, open A, third finger on the D string. And then we're going to hop up to the open E, and then down to the D, third finger on the A string, and then down to the B, first finger on the A string. So B, A, G, all the way up to the E, D, B. try that again. And then the last part of that little phrase is, so we just have third finger on the D on the A string, and then just hop your third finger over to the G string for the D string for the G there. So we have B, A, G, all the way up to the E, D, B, and then D, G, G. So if you notice, the pattern there is long, short, short, long, short, short, long, long, long. There we go. So let's try those two phrases together. So we have, and then at the end, we'll put that same pickup in because we're going back to that first phrase again. So let's try that again. And then continuing on, you have that first phrase again. And then you have the next phrase again also. And then instead of doing that hoppy, skippy third finger thing, we're just going to do open strings. E, A, A. So that last phrase sounds like this. All right, nice and easy. So we have basically the same thing twice, but the first time we end with a 3, 3, 3. That D, G, G. And then the second time we end with E, A, A. All right, so it's going to be really easy to repeat this whole A part. So we're going to play all the way through to the G, G, and then all the way through to the E, A, and then repeat that whole thing again. And that's the whole A part. We're flying through this thing. Now the B part's going to be a little bit longer, so it's nice to get the easy part out of the way first. So starting on your D string with a, threw a little strike in there at the end if you want to check out the technique section and start working on some ornamentation. You can pepper that in everywhere. That makes the tune sound really Scottish pipey. So that's the whole A part, nice and quick. And so now we're heading into the B part. So the B part is longer and it does take some twists and turns. So, but don't worry, we're going to go through it all nice and slow here. Let's take it. So we're going to do the same pickup, only we're going to start on the A string this time, but it's still going to be first finger, third finger. So exactly the same finger pattern that we did down on the D and the A string, except we're going to move it up a string. So now that you've got that, and you can kind of scrunch into the E string, but I wouldn't do it as hard as you do it down on the bottom. You will notice as you go that the E string is very delicate. If you try to crush it, it will sound like, you know, it will start screaming first. The other strings can take a bit of weight, but the E string you really have to just go very light and very quick. So speedy bows and have a lot of speed and very light touch. That's going to help on that E string. So if you're suffering from a whining, crying E string, just lighten up and go quicker. So we have. So this first phrase sounds like this. So that phrase is not hard at all, except for these little quick notes. So we have open E, open E going down to your third finger on the A string. That's a D there. You just have to move your bow kind of quick. You have to get, it kind of helps you exercise your direction changes. You see how my bow is mostly moving down, but I'm kind of quickly catching that up bow? And I'm coming up on the second finger on the E string. That's a G. That one's much easier to grab. So that's on an up bow. So the bowing isn't particularly important for this tune, except for here. You kind of get this down, up. That's kind of pronounced. So here we go. And then we're going to go up to the A, third finger on the E string. So I don't know if I remember if I remember that I mentioned that's going down to an open E there. And then this next phrase is coming up to the E, the A there, sorry, and down to the E. So we're starting on an open E, going down to the D, open E, and then G, down to the E, and then up to the A, and back down to the E again, and then finally landing on a G. That's second finger on your E string. All right, so we're gonna do that a lot. So after we get this down, we'll use it a lot, so that'll make it feel worth it. There we go. So one more time. So there we have our first phrase. So I'm going to play that first phrase into the next phrase so you can see what it sounds like, because it's going to start to get a little bit repetitive. So starting from the top of the B part. There we go. So we're going to do all of that. So we are starting from that second phrase, which is. So similar to the first phrase, but a little bit different. Open E, down to the third finger on the A string or the D. Open E. And then we're going to go up to the second finger on the E string and then hit a little F sharp in there. So 2, 1, 2. And then we have this beautiful cascading little phrase here. Oh, that just sounds so Scottish. I love little phrases like that. They're just so that quintessential Scottish sound. Kind of goes, falls down and then comes back up. So we have an open E, down to the D, third finger on the A string, down to the first finger on the A string. Open A, and then we're going down to your G, your third finger on your D string, and then On the A string, we'll go A, 1, 3, or A, B, D. So the whole phrase sounds like this. So we have open E, and then D, B on the A string, open A, and then down to the third finger on the D string, open A, and then 1, 3. There we go. So somebody is really ringing back there. Somebody's happy, having a good time. So let's start from the top of the B part here so we get all of this together. There we go. So this is one of these tunes, you'll feel it as we're getting into this part. If you haven't listened to this tune enough, you definitely need to go back to the beginning and listen to this tune to the point where you can sing it, because it gets a little hard to string things together. So we have... And then the next phrase is... which is easy, you already know that. So we're heading into the first ending of the A part here, or the B part. So that's a G here to the open E, and then F sharp, first finger on your E string, and then go down to your D on the A string, third finger. So that is a little bit of a tricky one, but that's going to happen in a lot of tunes, so it's going to come in handy. So that's G to E, and then F sharp to D. So that's second finger, open E, first finger on the E, down to the third finger on the A string. And so we have this phrase, quickly followed by... So again, things get repetitive in Scottish tunes, but you will get used to it. There's a lot of squirreliness in Scottish tunes. So we have G, A, F sharp, D. And then we have G, E, D, B. So that's just the third finger and first finger on the A string. And then you get a break here. We're just going to go E, A, A. And then we'll head into the repeat again. So let's try all of that, what we have so far, so you don't get too confused. It kind of makes sense to do it all together. So we'll do this phrase one more time, though, together with that E, A, A. One more time. Throw a strike in there just for kicks. So let's try the whole B part that we have so far. And so we're going to start from the D, B, D, A. I keep saying the wrong strings today. I'm so sorry. B, D, open E. that again. So we have all of that, and then we're going to repeat some of the first part again, and then go into a big ending that's very dramatic and exciting at the end. So I'm going to play all of that again and then keep going and show you what's repeating and get up to that second ending there. So let's try that again. So that's where it changes there. We have a little, instead of where you go up to the D here, the third finger on the, we're just going to change that to a G on the D string. So then we're going to go into this really exciting ending, which I love so much. So luckily you already know half of that. So we only have to learn this really easy part. So we have a low 2 on your A string. This is a C natural. So that's C, B, C, 2, 1, 2. And then go heading up to the third finger, D, C, D, or third finger, second finger, third finger. So we have open E. So that's just an open E down to the third finger on the A string, or your D. And then you can head just up to the open A here. Head up to that third finger on your E string, or if you want to be extra fancy, you can grab the open A string. And then we'll go da 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 da. So you already know the whole tune so far. So let's start from that C natural again. Try it again. All right, very good. So let's try the second half of the B part. So we make sure we get that second, we get that little transition into that last little bit there. So let's start from. Silly me. I went ahead and played the whole B part. I'm sorry about that. I kind of have mashed potatoes for brains today. So Let's do that all again one more time now that you've been able to hear the whole part. Yeah, sorry, sometimes my brain can't pay attention. That is actually why I do like to leave my little boo-boos in here so you can see that we're all human, but also it's actually a good demonstration of the fact that once you get to a certain level, all of this stuff is pretty on automatic. And so I'm almost having a hard time breaking things down slowly. You'll notice that it's more pronounced when you teach dancing. Actually, I kind of have more of a problem slowing things down, because when you do things quick, it's just like walking. It's really easy. But when you have to slow everything down and actually think about everything, it's actually a separate skill. And it's one reason why a lot of people don't actually like to teach, because it's just a completely different space in your brain. And if, like me, you've been working on other stuff and you're not in that space in your brain and you have to kind of come back to it, there's some cobwebs in there. So I'm going to dust off the cobwebs and try this B part again. Let's just do the whole thing. You get the picture on what's happening here with this part. So let's do this B part one more time, and then we'll do the whole tune. There we are. So let's try the whole tune nice and slow. 1, 2, 3. There you go. So that is Fingal's Cave. And so as you were seeing in there, I was having a hard time not putting some ornaments in there because this tune is so pretty and there's just so many cool things that you can do. So I'm going to show you some of the cool things that I like to throw in here. So if you're going to move this up to intermediate level, I would just ransack the technique section and look for some ornaments to do. You can do some drones. Do that little pull-off thing, or some people call it a scrunch. pretty trills and little neighbor notes there. So this tune is like super fiery, but I like to maintain the pretty qualities of it. So I like to throw in those really beautiful little trills. And some strikes in there too. And you can put those wherever you want to. You don't have to put them where I'm putting them. You know, that's just a nice little trill on the 4th finger there. So another thing you can do is use some 4th finger instead of that open E string. And then I like to go in for that big G drone there. And then hit my big double stop on the bottom. So I have my 1st finger barred over the 2 bottom strings to have an A and an E. And then do kind of a scrunch, but the whole triple stop thing. Yeah. So you can, if you want to sound really Cape Breton-y, then you can add a unison, which is I'm doing my 4th finger on my A string, sorry, 4th finger on the D string, and then open A string. And then you can go in with a warble on your 1st finger. On a B natural instead of a B. I accidentally did a B flat there at first. So that's a very Cape Breton-y thing to do there at the end. And then on the B part, it's kind of more of the same, you know. So add a couple of trills and strikes. And one thing you can do is definitely hit all those A drones, all the A behavior there. So if you want to get really fancy. So that's just some trills and a little, just running my fingers up the fingerboard there. Just a little warble there. And then continuing on, I do a little bit of a funny G double stop thing here. I like to do this and that's actually to add some tension because it really is an A chord there, but adding a double stop that's a little bit wrong kind of makes it sound a little strange and mysterious. So that's why I'm doing that. I'm not, I mean, it's referencing a G chord, but it would be weird if you played a G chord there. So if I had a guitar player, I would ask them to just rock out on while I was playing the up here, just to make it sound spooky and weird. So what I'm doing there is just a 1st finger on the A string and a 2nd finger on the G string. So I have a B and a G. So I'm actually just bringing that A along with the 2nd finger. So I knew somebody was going to ask for that. What the heck are you doing there? So that's what the heck that is. So, and you can warble it too. So that's a nice little pretty thing to do there. All I'm doing is this sneaky little 2nd finger. Very sneaky, very subtle, but very effective. and then go in for some double stops. So there you go. There's some fun things to do with Fingal's Cave there. And I did some of them in the beginning. You can rewind back to the beginning when I did the fast version and hear all that stuff in there too. And hopefully some other things as well that I've forgotten about. So I hope you enjoy this tune, and I will see you in the next video.